You're not confused. You're not underqualified. You are a smart coach with expertise, but you still don't quite feel confident when you speak with your clients. Well, it has nothing to do with your skill, and there's a deeper psychological reason why. Let's get right into it. Most coaches think that confidence is a skill issue, or it's just something they're missing in their personality. But confidence goes so much deeper than that. It's not a personality trait that you either have or you don't have. That's a terrible misconception I see in society. You see, your confidence, it's a byproduct of who you are, how you feel about yourself, and what you know you're capable of achieving. See, it's reminiscent of a growth mindset where setbacks don't actually set you back, where you believe in yourself and in your ability to figure it out when you don't quite know the answer or are not quite sure of something. And when you are an online coach, especially if you're just starting out, that can be extremely intimidating. You might think that you just need more practice. If only you had more coaching sessions. If only you had more clients. If only you've recorded more content. But here's the real truth you need to know. Confidence is not created by repeating the same behavior. It's created by getting into a state of coherence and a deep understanding of who you are, how you operate, what you know, and where your gaps are. And when you have the whole package, the deeper understanding of how you operate as a coach, that's when you can begin to come into a place of coherence and showing up from a place of authentic authority because you know what you know and you know how you prefer to express it and you know how to adapt in the moment. Most online coaches, especially when they're first starting out, they get into a state of fight or flight or into a fear response, if you will. When you are first putting yourself out there, whether that's through content or through client calls, you are looking for reasons to validate that it's going well or looking for all the reasons to validate that it's not. That might look like overthinking, wondering if you're qualified, wondering if you're making sense, trying to give so much information that you are showing your value while actually overwhelming or detracting from your message. It's overanalyzing the response in the individuals you're talking to, whether they're your clients or they're your prospective clients. It's overanalyzing every single thing they say, every facial expression they make, every reaction that they have in a session. You are overanalyzing it and assigning it meaning that's probably not actually aligned with what they were thinking in that moment. So let's say you're in a coaching call and you are giving someone information and they start yawning. You are likely to attribute that to the fact that you are boring or that you're not giving them what they need in the session. And you might start to panic and overthink and try to be more something else that is not natural to you. And this causes you to go into an elevated state of stress. And yes, that is harmful to you as much as it is to your client. Because whenever your brain senses uncertainty, whenever you are in a place of doubting yourself, the automatic default that we're all wired to do is to hone in on the negative. And then that means criticizing yourself more, overanalyzing everything you said more, second guessing yourself, doubting your own capabilities, and assigning yourself a lower value than what you are actually providing to the other person. Now, how many times have you recorded content? Have you put out a reel or a post with crickets? Not enough likes by your standards, not enough comments, no people reaching out and throwing their money at you to book the sales calls. But then how many times have you had a conversation with someone later down the line who turned out they were just a ghost on social media and was consuming your content and finding so much value in it, integrating what you're saying without giving you a single like of support to show it? That happens to all of us. And so you cannot get in your own head about what giving value means by someone else's standards. Because when you put yourself into a place of self-doubt and uncertainty, especially if you're doing it repetitively, whether that's every day, whether that's every client call, whether that's every time you sit down to record content, you are then reinforcing that uncertainty in yourself. And that causes a spiral, and that causes an increase in the amount of uncertainty you're feeling. So rather than feeling like you're progressing and you're getting better and you're improving, you will feel like you're staying stagnant or even worse, decreasing. And I don't want that for you. Because if you're finding yourself in a place of this spiraling negativity, of this self doubt, yes, there will be physical manifestations of that. The way that you communicate will change. You'll speak faster. You will sound less certain. The hesitation will come through in the vocal mechanics that you use. Your body language will be less confident. The way that you try to articulate things will be less clear. All of these behaviors, they're not just individual behaviors, they are all symptoms of a deeper underlying psychological issue, which is doubting yourself, doubting your credibility, and letting your value be determined outside of you through likes, through follows, through payments, through whatever metric you have assigned it. And yes, those things matter. And those things do give you an indication of when you're on the right path, but they cannot be the definition of value that you are providing to yourself, especially when you're first starting out and you're experimenting and you're finding your feet and you're playing around with different styles. It's a very confusing place to be. There's 300 different strategies to try. Every single person promises that their strategy is the one to do it. You're overwhelmed. You don't know what to try, what not to try, why something's not working, what else to try instead of it, how to show up as yourself when that person shows up in this way and they get likes, but that person shows up that way and they get the followers. And you know that you're capable and you know that you're an expert and you know that you can do it just as well, if not better. So give yourself a permission to do that. But in order to start doing that, in order to get to a place where you do feel confident, where you do feel authentic, where you do feel like you're killing the game, you have to go through a period of unwiring and relearning the reactive state that you are in, the negative thought spiral that you have found yourself in, and instead retraining yourself to start with that grounded, confident presence, because everything else built up from there. You see, in my work with leaders and working on their executive presence and working in the way that they show up, I saw a lot of similarities between how leaders show up in the workplace and how coaches show up online. And that's why I'm now working with coaches as well on their coach presence. And your coach presence is so much more than just how you look. It's so much deeper than just how you sound, because anyone can teach you basic communication hacks. But if you struggle to implement them, especially when you're nervous or in a high stakes conversation, or even that sales call that you dread, they will go right out the window, because your underlying psychological foundation needs to be set in stone and so incredibly sturdy that everything that you build upon it just naturally falls into place. So let me break this down for you. When working with clients on their coach presence, there's really 4 key pillars that I've broken this down into. This is your presence, your ability to communicate, your ability to maintain relationships, and your ability to express yourself and be mindful of your appearance. And that's not just your appearance visually of how you look, what you choose to wear, but it's your appearance in terms of what your body language and your nonverbal cues are conveying, because they send clues and signals to the other person without you realizing. It all happens unconsciously. So stay tuned if you're interested in that. I'm doing a whole series breaking down each pillar in more detail. But foundationally, your presence is the core foundation of everything else. So let's unpack that a little bit more. Think of your presence as your ability to be there mentally, psychologically, attentively, insert the blank here. When you are so busy being in a reactive state, being in that state of fight or flight, you are self-absorbed. You are focused on yourself. You are overthinking what you said. You're overanalyzing what you're thinking of saying. You are being extremely critical of your body language, the sentences, the way that you said it, the information you chose to share. Every single aspect of what you're doing ends up being put on trial and overanalyzed. And all of your attention, all of your cognitive focus goes on yourself. And you are doing your client a disservice when you're doing that. Because when you're so busy thinking about yourself, especially when you're criticizing the way that you're coming across, there is no bandwidth left to pay attention to the actual nature of the conversation you're having. And so what ends up happening is that when you're so busy overthinking and wallowing in your self doubt, your body language completely changes. It conveys the lack of confidence that you're feeling. The way that you communicate changes as well. Your vocal mechanics are a reflection of how you think and how you feel. And so if you're playing a loop of self-criticism and self-doubt, your voice will literally change. You will sound more hesitant. You will sound less certain. You'll use more filler words. Maybe your pace will speed up. Maybe it will completely slow down because you're doubting and overthinking and overanalyzing. The facial expressions that you make will change. Every single aspect about you and who you are and how you're coming across will change and decrease, if you will, because foundationally the presence is focused on criticizing yourself. But when you're able to flip the switch, when you're able to actually be present on the other person, on the conversation, on the task at hand, think of it as mindfulness, if you're familiar with that term. It's forgetting everything else for that moment and really zoning in and focusing on what you are doing, no matter how it's going. So let me give you an example. Right now, I'm recording this video. I'm aware of the fact that I want good posture. I'm aware of the fact that I want eye contact with the lens. I'm aware of the fact that I want to articulate the importance of presence. But I am focused on helping you understand what this means. I'm helping you have that aha light bulb breakthrough moment of seeing it for yourself, rather than having a loop in my thoughts about, am I sitting straight enough? Should my legs not be crossed? Should I be moving my arms or not? Is my facial expression okay? How am I speaking? Did I say that clearly? Can you imagine how the nature of this video would change if I was just thinking about myself the entire time? You would have clicked off a long time ago. And the exact same thing is happening for you. The way that you come across has to start with the way that your mindset is and what you are focused on. So take the attention off of you. If it's too hard to put it on the actual conversation, just start with the task at hand. Because when you're able to do that, yes, let's put it to the side for now, but yes, it is important to be mindful of your skills. It is important to be mindful of your communication habits. It is important to be mindful of how you're coming across. But that comes with intentional time and practice and built upon this foundation. So you have to start by understanding what kind of presence are you actually giving your task, whether that's recording content, whether that's hopping on a sales call, whether that's having a conversation with a client. What kind of attention are you giving it? And are you giving them the attention that they deserve? Because when you have that in place, it becomes so much easier to start to build on and improve. When you are focused on them and you're identifying the patterns that they're experiencing because you're actually listening to them, you're able to articulate it so much more clearly. Because now, rather than overthinking and being in your head and how can I give them a value and transformation and what can I say and let me just throw everything at them, and then they're left overwhelmed, feeling unheard. Now you're giving them targeted, selective information that actually gives them the transformation they're looking for, and that leaves you feeling better. It is all interconnected. But if you're not feeling confident, it starts with your presence and your ability to actually pay attention to the task at hand. Because building on it further, when you start to be present, when you start to ground yourself, you are regulating your nervous system in real time. Because again, that state of overthinking, that state of overanalyzing, it is keeping you stuck in fight or flight. It is dysregulating your nervous system in the moment. And that's making you have a spike of cortisol. It's making you have that spike of anxiety. Maybe you're having the shakes. Maybe you're having shallow breathing. Especially if you're having shallow breathing, it's so much harder to speak because you can't even take enough air to say a full sentence. It all makes sense because it starts with your presence. And so knocking that overthinking out of the park, grounding yourself into the moment, trusting yourself to pay attention, trusting yourself to give it your attention. And even if something comes up that you don't know, trusting yourself to be able to handle that, not have anxiety about all the possibilities, but trusting yourself to be able to handle the situation and the task at hand, even if that means looking into it and getting back to them, because that's okay too. But this will quite literally start to regulate your nervous system in real time. This, as a result, has positive repercussions where it changes the way that your vocal mechanics are. You start to slow down. You start to sound more sure of yourself, hence more confident. You start to think more clearly. You start to trust yourself. You start to create that psychological safety, that rapport, that trust between you. You start to be more magnetic and charismatic. When you get out of your own head, the repercussions and the ripple effects are absolutely beautiful because you're able to actually stop the cortisol, stop the stress, calm yourself down, and pay attention. The difference is not just in how you feel, the difference is in the actual experience that you're creating for your clients. So here's the signs that I want you to look out for. Number one, when you are in sessions, how much of the time are you spending actually listening to what is said versus how much time are you spending reacting and anticipating what they're going to say? Now, here's the difference. When you are responding and paying attention and really honing in on the individual you're talking to, you're not thinking about the next thing you're going to say. You're not thinking about interrupting and giving them and inserting the value into the conversation as if it's a delicious dinner on a silver platter. You're not anxious to speak. You're not keeping a running list of the 72 things that you want to throw at them as soon as they're done speaking. These are all signs of being reactive and anxious and stressed. So instead, I'm going to challenge you when you find yourself in a session and you're tempted to throw things out and you're tempted to interrupt, take a breath, pause. If you really need to, write it down on a separate piece of paper, but you will notice that your communication, the way that other people respond to you, the way that sessions go will improve tremendously when you are able to hold space and let the conversation breathe. And that means pausing. That means when your client finishes speaking, you pause and you give it 1, 2, 3 seconds to make sure that they're done speaking before you insert yourself. That means when you are done speaking, you pause and you wait and you give them time to process as well. That means when you have a running list of things, you articulate that and you say, hey, 3 points I want to make. Number 1, and you slow it down. And it seems trivial and it seems silly, but it honestly makes the biggest difference. Because think about yourself. I see this all the time, especially on YouTube. There are so many creators who throw information out at you to me, it almost feels like they're speeding up the quality of the video and they're talking so incredibly fast and they're going, and they cut it and they edit it to be as quick and like high paced as it can be. And personally, I don't resonate with that style because I want time to breathe. I want time to think. I want time to catch the depth of what they're saying and the value that they're providing and actually process it. You see, there's a lag time between what you say, what they hear, what they process before they want to respond. Your brain needs that lag time. If you're not giving it that moment or two to actually process what you're saying, it just throws it out the window and keeps going. So slowing down isn't just a nice to have. Slowing down is actually a sign of confidence and being secure in what you're saying because you're giving people time to fully process and integrate it then and there. Now, building on that, our nervous systems mirror each other. Our communication habits mirror each other. Have you ever started speaking to someone and they were just so chaotic and anxious and clearly their mind was racing a million miles a minute and they wouldn't even finish a sentence before they're already speaking about something else and they're jumping all over the place and you quite literally start to feel stressed being in their presence? You don't want to do that to other people. And so it may feel counterintuitive at first, and I know because I've been there. I've been in your shoes when I first started coaching. I just wanted to give it all every single session. And when there's a time limit, if you do your sessions for 45 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever, you feel like you have to cram every second to make it impactful. But that's actually detracting from the quality of your sessions and it's detracting from your confidence. So slow it down. Start to pay attention and give the conversation room to breathe. Number two, if you find yourself overthinking, overanalyzing yourself, and just being self focused because you're stuck in that loop, that's okay. It takes time to break out of these habits. The first step is honestly awareness. So, what I want you to do is when you catch yourself in the moment, overanalyzing, self criticizing, I want you to stop, take a deep breath, and give yourself a compliment. Even if that's just, hey, I caught myself. Awareness is key. Even if that's just, oh, look, it wasn't as long as it usually is. Typically, I criticize myself for the full 45 minutes, but today I caught myself 15 minutes in. It sounds silly, but it works. You have to give yourself the compliments. You have to build up your confidence. You have to give yourself celebrations for the small wins that you're experiencing. Because our brains are wired for negativity. Our brains are wired to look for stress and for possible reasons to have fear and to have self-doubt. And so you're very, very used to self-selecting moments to reaffirm your own self-doubt. And it takes time to break out of that because most people think back to being a kid and to being parented by teachers, grown-ups, etc. Most of them are so quick to criticize. And it's all with good intentions. And it's all in the name of teaching. And it's all in the name of helping you improve. But what do we learn? We learn habitually, repetitively, to focus in on the things that we're criticizing, to focus in on the flaws, to focus in on all the things that we're doing wrong that need to be changed. Most of us were never taught to have positive self-talk. Most people don't have positive self-talk to be able to teach it to someone else. And so that is no fault of your own. And so, like, as a social psychologist, like, this is stuff that I researched while I was getting my doctorate degree. And the level, like the depth at which we are impacted by those around us, how they acted, how they spoke to us, it runs deep. And so if you find yourself just habitually criticizing, it's not your fault. And I don't want you to even dwell on it a moment longer. I want you to start to self-selectively look for progress, look for praise, and give yourself reasons to compliment yourself. Start to rewire that loop. Start to look for positive reasons why you're actually doing really well. It's simple, but it's highly effective and it works. Now, the last tip I'll leave you with is this. When you find yourself in the loop of overthinking, self-doubt, not knowing if it's going well, check in with the other person. Just check in with the other person. Ask them, real quick, is this making sense? Or, hey, just checking in. Is anything I said unclear? Or, hey, let's stop for a second. Are there any questions? Should I give more explanation about anything I said? Is there anything outstanding that you want to revisit? Start checking in and looking for that feedback and that two-way conversation. What you'll find is that if you are saying things and they need more feedback and you're noticing the patterns of, I tend to talk fast and they miss the information, or I want to give them 7 different points, but I end up giving them half-baked ideas for each one and they just don't get it. I talk so fast that they're missing what I said. Right? When you start to notice these patterns, you start to change them. And then all of a sudden, you're going to make more sense and that will boost your confidence. But on the other hand, if you're not doing as terrible as you actually think you are, if you're not giving yourself enough credit and you ask them, am I making sense? And they go, yeah, totally. That's amazing. I just had a breakthrough. That's going to boost your confidence as well. So it doesn't matter whether they don't quite get it or they do. Both of them are going to help you improve, progress, and become so much more confident when you see how you are capable of acting and coaching others. If this is resonating, stay tuned for the entire series on your coach presence, on your actual presence, on your communication, on your relationships, and on your appearance and expression, because each of them is a core pillar that together creates the whole package of how you feel about yourself and how you come across. But what I really want you to take away today is this. If you feel like you're not confident, if you feel like you lack confidence, it's not because there's something wrong with you and it's not because there's something missing from you. It's because you have wired yourself to think in the negative, to be self-critical, to overanalyze and to be so self absorbed that you're just running negative thoughts on a loop. And so instead, this is your challenge to start to rewire that, to start to give people your full attention, even if that means you make a few mistakes along the way. Start to reaffirm the things that you're doing well. Look for reasons to celebrate your growth. Look for reasons to encourage yourself. Like the fact that you're a coach, how often do you coach yourself? Right? It's like when it comes to self talk, one of my favorite bits of advice to give to people is to think to yourself in third person. Because when you start to put some distance between you and what you're thinking and what you're feeling, it becomes easier to have that metacognition, to think about your thoughts, if you will. And so when you put that distance, when you have that objectivity, when you can analyze yourself from a third person perspective, again, this is called metacognition in psychology. It's fascinating, but what it does is it helps you look at it objectively from a place of neutrality and actually self assess. And because you're a coach and you're good at coaching people, you can actually use that technique to coach yourself. And so think of yourself as you're being self critical, as you're full of self doubt, as you're just spiraling in negativity. What would you say to a client? What advice would you give to a friend? And use them on yourself, because you are not your thoughts. You are just a series of habitual patterns that you have learned based on your past life experiences. That does not mean that you will forever be this way. Only if you choose not to change. Let's be real here. But if you choose to actually work on it, if you choose to change the way that you think, if you choose to change the way that you look at your patterns of thinking, you will experience tremendous growth and tremendous changes in your mindset. And again, in your presence, you'll get yourself out of that fight or flight reaction. You will change the way that you quite literally sit and carry yourself. You will change the way that your vocal mechanics work, the way that you sound when you speak. You will change the way that you articulate your thoughts and your ability to convey information meaningfully. You will change every single aspect of you, but it all starts with understanding your mindset and where it is that you're starting from. So if you're not feeling confident, there's nothing wrong with you. You just have to make a few changes and a few tweaks to how you think on a daily basis. Now, if this resonates, check out the description box. I've created a quiz, a free quiz you can take to understand what your default pillar style is when it comes to coaching. What do you naturally tend to gravitate towards? Is it building the relationships? Is it communicating? Is it being mindful of your expression? Take the quiz because it will give you so much insight into how you naturally lead as a coach. And it will give you some tips for how to improve. Comment down below. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was and subscribe so that you don't miss the rest of the series. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.